Okay, good morning and welcome to Iyun, Mitzion, Iyun from Eretz Yisrael, Mitzion from Ben Zion in Eretz Yisrael. I can't get better than that. I'm gonna change the new song in Simchas Torah. I'm gonna sing in the shul. I already paid for it. I paid 1,000 shekel. There's no longer Ki Mitzi. After they give out those, what is it called? Before the hakafos, they give the Ata Arisa. And they start singing the last one. Ki Mitzion Teitei Torah V'Hashem Yerushalayim. They're saying Iyun Mitzion, Iyun Mitzion Teitei. I paid 1,000 shekel for Ata Arisa, so I already got the. I didn't even let it become an auction. I'm joking. I didn't do this, but it would be kind of cool to do that, right? If I actually paid for Ata Arisa, I would insist on that, right? It's my right. Iyun Mitzion Teitei Torah. You got to advertise. You got to market yourself. All right, I want to talk today about Mishnah Ches, Perek Yud Aleph, Mishnah Ches. It comes out from the previous Mishnahs. We're talking about things like the bones of Truma, the bones of Kodshim, or the pits of a fruit of Truma, or things like that. If people actually would extricate the juice out of the pits, then it would retain its status as Truma. If not. It seems like it loses its status of Truma. Here we have a very interesting thing that you're pouring out a barrel of wine or a pitcher of wine, that's Truma. And now, when you pour out things like wine, or especially with oil gets left in a little bit. When it starts dripping, the last drops, 3 drops in a row, already it's not considered Truma anymore. The Gemara says you can put in Chulin anymore. It's not a problem with Ma'abi Truma anymore. I have a young fan over here, a little baby over here, who came to the end of the shir. I have kids come, I have adults come, everyone comes to my shir, so it's great. If you hear the noise in the background, there's a little baby in here that came to my shir. So you have a little bit of dripping out over there, so it sort of loses status as Truma, and the Mishnah goes to the point that if you tilt it back, so now the Truma, the 3 drops are now gathered in like a puddle over there in your pitcher, it goes back to being Truma. Before it wasn't Truma, and you could be Ma'abed it, you can put other things in there and destroy Truma, and here, once it gathers back into a puddle, it's not just dripping out anymore, then it goes back to Truma. It loses Truma, doesn't lose its Truma. So I want to say a very important thing over here. We've mentioned that when I say Truma belongs to the goof. The physical properties belong to the Kohen, and the value belongs to Hashem. But here, this Mishnah is saying even more than that. That you might think that the pit of Truma, or you might think the juices we talked about earlier in the parak, the juices that come out of a date or an apple, right, that's not the main part of it. You might think, right, there are physical things. There's juice over there. There's something. There's marrow in the bone. There's some juice in the pit. There's drops over here dripping out. It's a physical entity. So you might say, oh, it's Truma. It's Truma. However, the idea is that when we measure something physically, it doesn't literally mean physically that I can touch it. Physically, when it means the goof belongs to the Kohen, the shalom belongs to the Kohen, it means it has to be physical, but it has to be something significant also. Because if it's not significant, it's just going to throw it in the garbage. It's a pit you're going to throw in the garbage. That renders it physically meaningless, right? So that you can have physical something. You have dirt, I don't know how much dirt is worth, things are not worth anything. You have certain physical things that are not worth anything. They're completely invaluable. If they're not chashuv, they're not significant to anybody. So they lose their gufa truma. They lose their physical status, so to speak, and it's no longer considered truma. Now, it does have a value, right? These things have a value. If you collect all these drops together, like you say, if you lean the cod back, and now it's going to gather, so you can't say the value is gone, because the value technically can be restored, right? That's the thing over here. It has value because value could be restored, right? So you could fix something. Right now, if something's broken, right, so you could say it's insignificant. Right now, it's not worth it. It doesn't have a physical status. However, it has value because it can always be restored, and therefore, if you have it dripping, you can lean it back, so therefore it'll gather together, and it'll have the value will be restored. So value, even though it has value, not value now, but it can always be restored. That's part of the value. Even if it's not significant, it can be restored. However, when it comes to physical properties, you go after what's right now. Right now, it's not kosher, it's not significant. So therefore, it invalidates the gufa truma, and invalidates the gufa truma, and therefore it loses status as truma, because nothing be truma. It has to have both the physical status as truma, and it has to have the value. And albeit it doesn't have the value, it doesn't have the physical status as truma if it's insignificant, It could go back to being Truma if you gather it together. Now it becomes significant again. But if you don't lean it back, the Kod back, it doesn't gather together. It's just dropping out. It's insignificant. It doesn't have the Gufa Truma. If you don't have both characteristics, the Shalom of the Kohen and the value of Hashem, then you don't have Truma over here. And it loses the status of Truma. It's a big Chiddush. It could lose the status of Truma and go back to being Truma. Unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable shir. See you later in the day in Shulchan Aruch Yomi, part of the greater Yeshiva YouTube. Please subscribe and please like the videos because I'm sure you enjoyed and I'm sure you love my channel. See you later. Bye.